Fiachra. Upon the lawn beside Idunna's birth spring, the Svanir, the swan figure, stronger than man, more graceful than woman, spoke. Do you see your lives? Fiachra, 1 foot in the world, replied. I see glimpses of lives, the lives I have known. None are my own, they are my counsel. How have you known them? I have lived their breath, as I have lived my breath. All are passing. So, they are yours, yet not yours. They are the breath of ancestors, the voices of ancestors. They are the voices of the forms I recognize. They are the ancestors of the landscapes, of the figures that raised me. They are the voices that speak to me. They are the counsel at my table. They speak their own voice. Hence, they are not mine, and yet they, each, are a part of me. How many are there, you see? I hear the voices of 12. Speak of each. What do you see? Fiachra closed his eyes and spoke. I see the monk, the brother grown in monastery, fed at the long table in habit. Stone and wood surround. The wood is almost as ancient as the stone. The sound of the wood against the stone echoes throughout the hall. The brother enters the cloister, a quadrangle garden of green, framed amid stone. A tree grows from the center, its branches reach, soon its leaves will provide shade. The monk looks upon the garden before drawing up his hood and walking with bare feet upon the cool of the stone. The monk enters the scriptorium. He approaches his work. The final page is dry. He ties the pages and places them on a shelf with other finished works. The brother enters the wood. Spring flowers emerge from leaves. He hears the birds. He hears the insects. He hears the scurrying of the small. He hears the response of the trees to the warmth. He hears the sprouting of the buds of new leaves. He feels the dew rise from the ground in the sun. The swan responded. The monk you see is the voice of my father's companion, Astrider Torfrider. Astrider, divine beauty, joined Torfrider, thunder's peace. Astrider is quiet and serene. She is the moment the sun touches the mist that forms above the land. She is the light, and her robes are the mist. Her feet are the awakening of concerted mind. Her consort, Torfrider, is calm and focused. He watches Astrider shimmer. What else do you see? I see the shepherdess. She watches the dogs as they run over the hillside. They are tireless. She whistled but once. They knew. Their parents trained them. Their parents were trained by their parents, who were trained by their parents, who were trained by their parents for 1,000 years. She grew watching her father, watching the dogs, watching the sheep. He never said much, but there was a care in his eyes for the sheep, and a respect in his soul for the dogs. Her father now lay on the hilltop beneath stone. She tended the flock. The dogs were extensions of her stride, of her need, of her care. The wind blew against her in the high valley. Soon they would descend. The snow had started in the night. The swan responded. The shepherdess you see is the voice of my father's companion, Unner Tormoder. Unner, love, joined Tormoder, thunder's mind. Unner is the connection, the binding force, the security of understanding. Unner is the source of expectation. She is the binding of thought. She is the meaning of the rune. She is what provides a consistency to think. Her consort, Tormoder, is thoughtful and considerate. His consideration is nestled, trusting in her warmth. What else do you see? I see the boatman. The canvas flapped as the wind shifted, and then it caught again, and he felt the boat surge forward. The waves were tall. Spray came over the bow, wash came over the side, but it drained as the sail found purchase. In time, though, the wind increased, and the sail was lowered. Gruff men sat to the oars. Another, tall and powerful, held the tiller. The men roared in song to honor thunder as they pulled. The wood creaked with the strain of the northern sea. The men pulled. Bare-armed, fur-bodied, with beards full of blood mead, the men sang in rhythm to the stroke. The tillerman fought the currents, found those he liked, coursed with those, and all the while the men pulled on the oars and chanted their thunderous song. The swan responded. The boatman you see is the voice of my father's companion, Kelda Tortrigger. Kelda, fountain, joined Tortrigger, thunder's trust. Kelda ever rises and ever flows. She is the source, she is the well, she is the drinking water. She is ever awake, ever moving, never still. She moves and cannot be grasped. Her presence refreshes and enlivens. She washes away the travel dust. She bathes and makes clean. Her consort, Tortrigger, is fierce in his duty, steadfast, trusted to keep her pure. What else do you see? I see the potter. The stone shifted in watery grip. His fingers kneaded gently, methodically, shaping by degrees the existent form. The potential is known to him, little by its image, rather by its method, the result of the process, the result of his slowly turning grip. In his base, humble hands, the sphere gradually becomes the cup that holds the water, the cup that is the blood vessel, the cup that bears all life. The swan responded. The potter you see is the voice of my father's companion, Ere Torstein. Ere, mercy, joined Torstein, thunderstone. Ere is stern and protective of the true. She is justice. She directs her memory according to her spirit, true to the balance of her sister's will. She recognizes the burden borne. They are her charge. She consoles the true. She feels for the strong beneath the weight of the darkness they endure. Her consort, Torstein, recognizes her mercy. He is unmoving in his will. He is the spirit of those that die in her arms. It was Ere and Torstein who raised our mother, a true-born who lived alone in the world. What else do you see? I see the hermit. The old lord provided his shelter. An old folly in the grounds, the ruined remains of the old castle. He watches the ancient wood, prize of the old lord, his hunting ground, where the prey is darkness. He is lean and quiet. The folly is beside the stream. He bathes in the crystal water. He eats the leaves, berries, nuts, and mushrooms of the wood. His fire never dies in the hearth of the folly. The simple cold stone remains hard, but there, at the heart of the sanctuary, the stone is warm and the infusion steams into the surrounding cool of the air. He wears a robe of grey wool. From a belt of woven fibre hangs a simple knife. His feet are bare. He receives the pilgrim warriors as they, starving, spear-wounded, pass through his ancient wood. He washes bleeding wounds, settles disparate thought, and by the will of the wood polishes and makes clear again their own view of their own seeking souls. The swan responded. The hermit you see is the voice of my father's companion, Lifa Torvaldr. Lifa, life, joined Torvaldr, thunder's rule. Lifa is the colour of dew-dropped petals. She is the colour of freshest wet grass. She is the blossom and the leaf, the sinew of trunk and stem. She is the root and tendril. Torvaldr watches her grow. She is his muse, and by her rule he prunes, by her rule he sculpts, by her rule he trains, all so that she may reach. What else do you see? I see the musician. The musician turns from the gentle keys. His mood has shifted. The lethargy encroaches, the lethargy of mood, the blanket, the weight of the burden of music. He reaches for the strings, for the short strings, something sharp. The violin is sharp. The violin is a weapon. The musician caresses the wood, tests the tension in the strings, tightens it, makes it taut. The bow rides quickly from low to a drawn-out high that the musician sustains. The window glass is tested. The sound slices, pierces. It cuts into the gloom. It cuts through the murk. Thunder trails its light. The cloud bursts. The rain falls. The keys are heard again. The swan responded. The musician you see is the voice of my father's companion, Hydron, Torkettle. Hydron, honor lord, joined Torkettle, thunder's cauldron. Hydron is a storyteller. Her voice is the sound of the wind. It is the sound of hooves. It is the wolf howl. It is the sound of the fire that sends sparks to the sky. Her voice is the sound of the breath when climbing, and of perspiration in the sun. It is the sound of snow falling. Hers is the sound of places been and the sound of where to go. Torkettle feeds her that she may travel, that she may be fast, that she may be strong. What else do you see? I see the scout. The scout is alone. He travelled ahead, walks his way between trees, and scrambles over rocks. He is light and strong and fast. He runs when the ground is good. He does not trip. He stops and listens. He takes time to read. He takes time to hear. He carries a knife and a bow with a quiver of arrows. His hair is drawn back, top and sides tied behind. His body rotates, turns this way and that, through undergrowth. The deer do not run, though they listen. The swan responded. The scout you see is the voice of my father's companion, Ulla Torarin. Ulla, sea jewel, joined Torarin, thunder's eagle. Ulla is the essence of delight, the sparkle on the water's surface. She is the movement of currents. She is the curious one. She is what the seeker sees. She is the enticer towards the light. She is the enticer towards knowledge. Her consort, Torarin, is her seeker. He flies beside her, training his eyes to her interest, seeing what she wishes to know. He is the student. She is his guiding intent. What else do you see? I see the noble woman. She wears riding clothes and ties her hair. She is proud and vain. She is not ashamed. She lusts. She gallops her horse and rules the land that can be seen. The animals are hers. The woodland is hers. The gallops and stables are hers. The park is hers, and so is the garden and the fortified moated house. It has all been hers since her ancestor won it 1,000 years before. Her maids are hers, her stable boys are hers, her grooms, her footmen, her cook, her butler, her farmlands are hers. And what they grow is hers. It was all hers since the bloodline formed, since it melded with the land by becoming the land. It is hers, and she is vain. She stands tall, flirts and laughs. She is imperious and takes care of what is hers. She is jealous of its beauty. She judges, and thus what is hers are moat and walls, because they adore her. The swan responded. The noble woman you see is the voice of my father's companion, Alfhildr Torgunr. Alfhildr, elf battle, joined Torgunr, thunder's war. Alfhildr is slim, refined. She is of lean speed. She seems taller than others. She is silent when she moves. She is efficient, she is grace, she is elegance. Feathered in white, her arrows fly true. Gleaming with silver light, her short sword flies unseen. Her consort, Torgunr, is the conceiver, the strategist. His mind, modelled on her spirit, administers war. What else do you see? I see the cavalrymen, the line arrayed on a hill. Lances, sharpened in morning light, stood skyward. Bridles clinked. Impatient horses whinnied, snorted, and stamped. Uniform jackets, in an array of once bright, now mud-flung colour, were bound snug with gold. The men looked forward to the field. Gauntleted hands that did not hold spears held their skyward swords. The hill line dried of its dew. Spurs waited poised. A mist hung below. The chill still present. The men moved, flexed legs, gripped rein, and shifted with the horses, waiting. The swan responded. The horseman you see is the voice of my father's companion, Vigdis Torberger. Vigdis, battle spirit, joined Torberger, thunder's protector. Vigdis is the battle. She is the sweat. She is the blood from the sword cut and from the spear thrust. She is the meaning of arrow and target. She is the connection between horse and rider. She is the sight ahead. She is the forger of paths. She is the one that bridles. She is the war horse. She is the biter of the bit. She is the seeker. She is the determined strength, the one who throws spear and who drives sword while seeking the eye of the damned. She is the one that roars. Her consort, Torberger, drinks the blood mead and rides the war horse. He honours her strength, directs the fire breath towards those that would stand against her. What else do you see? I see the dancer. The dancer is sculpted. In form and movement, the dancer is sculpted. She is sculpted by her will. Her body, her movement, is the expression of her will. Fingers glide over her form. She leaps. She is weightless. Her body is muscle and bone. She performs to invigorate spirit. She is the flame that rises, the flame that warms. She seduces. She is both lust and grace. She is elegance. She is awareness. The swan responded. The dancer you see is the voice of my father's companion, Hjordis Torbrander. Hjordis, sword spirit, joined Torbrander, thunder sword. Hjordis is like a shard of light. She is the slicing edge. She cuts at the apexes of curves. She is the flow of blood, the freeing of blood, the falling of blood to the ground. She is the glint of two blades arcing through space, and her consort, Torbrander, is the tactician. Ever at her back, he navigates their battle. Together they carve a path of 4 ever-moving crescents. What else do you see? I see the woodsman. His fingers ran over the bark. His calloused palm gripped the axe. He felt its weight. His thumb ran over the edge. It sang. The woodsman swung and chips flew. Again, strong upon the last, more chips flew. Again and again, upon the last, the head cut into the wood. Around the tree, debris littered the snow. The woodsman's sweat fell. The tree fell, crushed the branches of one side. The woodsman limbed the trunk, piled the small branches together. They would make the floor and the roof. The branches he cut into sections, the pillars of a structure tied fast with twine. He laid the thickest of trunk logs before the shelter and built against it a fire. The snow came early as the winter night fell, and the wind picked up in occasional light gusts, but then it settled and fell lightly as the ember sparks rose from the fire. The swan responded. The woodsman you see is the voice of my father's companion, Hilfdis Torgeir. Hilfdis, shield spirit, joined Torgeir, thunder spear. Hilfdis is the guardian of the plain. She watches the midground. She is the shield wall. She is firm of foot, steadfast, confident of ownership, confident of her considered cause. Her consort, Torgeir, stands beside, strong-bodied with long spear. He warns, thrusts the enemy back, reminds them that she stands her ground. What else do you see? I see the counselor. The listener listens. He watches and sees. He notes the patterns. He sees the sets. Traits arrange before him as probabilities, and he calculates and he questions. He considers and then calculates more. He sees the mind as another sees the body. He touches the mind, and as he does, beams of light force through cloud. His medium is reflection. He is the mirror. He requires consent. He requires humility. He requires vulnerability. His voice is the source of the searching light. His voice demands. He removes the clothes. He produces nakedness. He touches the form of thought. He pushes against discrepancy, the difference, the disconnect between the mind and its burdened charge. The swan responded. The counselor you see is the voice of my father's companion, Borghilder Torgeisel. Borghilder, castle battle, joined Torgeisel, thunder's arrow. Borghilder is the hall-keeper. She is the stone of the walls. She is the light of the windows. She is the honor of the altar. She is the integrity of the soul. She has the beauty of granite. She rises from the ground with the silence of a fortress of stone. But when the wind is blowing, she howls with the storm. And her consort, Torgeisel, spits from her windows on all that would defile, bolts of her molten will.